Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. I'm Elizabeth Townsend-Guard, your host. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School. I also hold 2 fellowships right now, one at the Business School and one at the Newcomb Institute at Tulane. And I just want to quilt. So, local artist extraordinaire, Katrina Brees joins us. She's one of my favorites. She is an incredible artist, and she has been making masks during this crisis. We talk about all kinds of things, including copyright issues that have come up with her. So I hope you enjoy this. This is my interview with Katrina. We recorded this on April 21st, 2020.
Nice to meet you too.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to go about 20 minutes. It's going to be easy. It's going to be a piece of cake.
Great. I love podcasting. It's one of my favorite art forms.
Yeah? Why do you love podcasting?
I find it like really transformational. Like it's like a time to kind of like reflect on what I'm doing and have someone interview me about it. It's almost like to have my own life like reported back to me almost, and to like analyze where I'm at. And I do a lot of podcasts, so I feel like they're sort of my legacy. Like if somebody wanted to learn.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah. Oops, so you say it again. It's your legacy? So
yeah, like it's my legacy where it's like something where people can get to know me versus and what I do. But a lot of the other ways I work are just like me presenting my work and not myself. And also in other, like I do a lot of interviews with the media, and that's always like super judgmental. Yeah. And like if I say something that's like anti-guns, they'll go like interview someone from the NRA right after me that like says
right.
You know,
have to get into that with you. Okay, so first question, super easy, which I know. Tell me your name and where you're calling from.
Sure, Katrina Brees. I'm calling from Carrollton, New Orleans.
And do you have a memory of someone, like your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life? That's another question we ask all the time.
Yes, I've been sewing for a really long time. I started sewing at like 5 years old, like hand stitching, and I had like, I think it was a Fisher-Price loom when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I would like do weaving. And so I would like actually create my own, fabric, but it was really just like weaving. And then I would hand sew it with like big fat plastic needles for children. And I also had this game that I love so much. I think it might have been called Fashion Plate. And it was like these different plates that you put down, and then you put a piece of paper and you rubbed it, and there would be like different parts of pretty much a Barbie doll. So there would be like different heads that you could put in the plate, and different fashion tops and fashion bottoms, and you could mix it up. So like she could have like a sun hat with a halter top and capri pants and these shoes, and then you would rub it with a crayon, and then you could design all the clothes for her. And I love that toy so much. So those were like my earliest like memories. And then I also was trying to think of like today, like what my earliest memory of like maybe like what inspired me to like be part of the mask project was. I realized that the first piece of jewelry I ever got from my family was this little ring when I was 5 years old. And I was told that the person had died like in the flu pandemic.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, wow,
weird.
like I was like pretty ripe for believing in this epidemic. Pandemic.
Weird.
Yeah.
So weird. Now, Katrina, help us understand sort of who were you before the mask thing happened? And then I want to talk about your mask, the things you're making, and all kinds of other stuff. So tell us a little bit, so put us in context with if like a pandemic had not been happening, what is your life normally like?
It involves lots of people in public space in close quarters. I do parade production. So the work that was canceled for me in March was St. Patrick's Day parades. And I was going to be producing festival art for Taco Festival. And so both of those were canceled. And then the other way that I make income is through producing entertainment for conventions. So that work is gone. And I mean, essentially, like all my work is gone. But this is kind of the third time this has happened to me in life. Like the first time with Katrina and the second time with BP, and now this time. And what I was thinking about today was that there's been this bounce that I do between like performance artists versus visual artist. And the times that I've been able to count on a public to have performances and work within festivals and stuff, I've leaned more on income that's based on performance work and public art and all that. And then in times that that was failing, that I would turn to visual art and have go more into production of like piecework and sell that like mostly online. So kind of like a good wartime artist.
Yeah.
I've also decided like I'm really good at like pivoting, and um, I like the I like a lot of different types of art and have a lot of skills. Like I did sewing for like when I was 5, but I was a fashion designer for like 10 years before I got into sculpture work and other work. And so I have a lot of sewing skills and a lot invested in supplies over the years and equipment and
Right.
brain and muscle memory to be able to like relaunch
Yeah.
that aspect.
So tell me a little bit about the mask making for you. So when did it begin, and sort of how is it going? And sort of you make amazingly beautiful masks that I love when you post them. And tell me a little bit about that.
So I actually lived in South Korea after the like SARS epidemic. And so I was pretty like accustomed. It was like years after that, but the mask culture there was really strong. And they had people wore masks like if you had a cold sore, you would just wear a mask, or if you had a cold or a flu or anything, you would just wear a mask. And actually, they even when they weren't wearing masks, they would often just like they would talk like this in public.
They'd put their hand over their face.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know if it has to do with like teeth shame or germs or what it's all about, but but that whole thing was sort of like there, and so I had already experienced knowing this type of living and like knowing how it can be played in fun ways, because a lot of the women had masks that were like kitten noses and little bunny noses and like all these really like cute Asian kawaii type of manifestations of their masks. And then the children had them and they were very like funny, and the delivery men had them. Actually, a lot of people wear masks there anyway, like just to protect themselves from the sun. So they would have almost like a turtleneck that's pulled up high. And so I kind of was like ready to know that the masks were going to be important pretty soon, before the federal government like got on board with it. And I started making them just to like see if I could and what it would feel like to make one. And then I offered to a woman in my dance troupe, the Bearded Oysters, is a nurse, and I offered to make them some because I had been hearing that there were shortages and other hospitals wanted them. And at first they were like, no, we don't want them. And then 24 hours later,
it was fast, right?
Yeah, like she was like, no, we want them. And I was like, well, how many is too many? And I just wrote 100, 1,000, 10,000, and she wrote 10,000's fine. And so I started sewing masks for her, but I realized immediately that like my value in making masks was inspiring other people to make masks. And I have a lot of followers and a lot of crafters and artist friends and costume designer friends. And so I did make masks, but I focused more of my effort in like really amping up the movement and calling friends around the country and saying like, this is real, like we're doing this, do it.
Interesting. And what was the response did you get from the craft and artist communities?
Well, I talked to there's this woman Shell who runs the New Orleans costume shop, something like that. And I was like, wow, she has like all the connections with all the costume designers, and they
Right.
probably have a lot of fabric. And so I sent her a message, and her and I are friends, and she's seen me work on a lot of other like activist campaigns, and I like asked her if I could call her, and so I called her, and we were talking about this project, and she was like, a couple months ago, a bunch of us knitted slings for baby kangaroos in Australia because of the fires.
Right.
And then they said they don't want our slings. And then I was like, no, this isn't that. Like, and I felt like really confident about it. And then immediately she kind of like opened up the floodgates on a bunch of materials for everybody in town,
That's
which
so
then
cool.
enabled some of the groups to
Hugely.
open so that
Yeah.
they could develop that.
Yeah.
And she did a really beautiful job in sort of setting the bar really like nationally on how to display those fabrics on your porch and how to create a sanitary way of doing it. And I even like photographed her system and sent it around to other groups and people when they would be talking about how should this be done, what like what does it look like on someone's front porch who's distributing fabrics and picking up masks.
Right.
And I mean, she just had
And
it
what did
like,
you suggest? What did she suggest to do? Because that's starting to happen here, where we're. You came by the house yesterday, so like, how
yeah,
do you? What's the best way to do it?
I think one of the keys is that the people can like see what they're grabbing and that they don't touch anything that they actually aren't going to take.
Yeah.
So she had like things that were maybe like fabrics were cut up more in like 2 yard pieces,
Got it.
and she had everything in plastic bags. And she
Oh,
also
that's a
has
good
a
idea.
costume store, so
Yeah.
she probably had a big inventory of plastic bags to
Yeah.
use and stuff like
But
that.
that's a great
And
idea.
then she had like elastic that was cut up in maybe like 10 yard pieces, and she had like a Purell pump there.
Wow, she was really
And
prepared.
yeah, and things were sort of spread out so that like you weren't just like hovering on everything the whole time.
Yeah.
um yeah, she did a really good job. And it felt very sanitary, the whole thing.
Got it.
Because
Interesting.
that's another part of this project is like,
Right.
how do you um like how do you create the how do you lower the risk for
Right.
yourself and others like through this
Right.
process,
Right.
which
Totally.
I think is really fun. Like it's almost like adventure sewing, like go out into virus world and like acquire this stuff and like
Totally. It's got a little bit of
and
tank
like,
girl to it, right?
yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
That's so funny.
And I've been
Um,
asking for donations of people that when people pick up masks from me and I tell them my address, I ask them to please drop off any gifts of like old t-shirts
oh,
or
that's a great
cotton or
idea.
linens. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people have been gifting me things like not just fabrics, but like I've gotten all sorts of like cool stuff. Like someone brought me like handmade homemade Purell yesterday,
Oh,
and one lady like brought me over like a bunch of strawberries, and someone left like a loaf of bread for me. And yesterday this lady probably left me like $50 worth of like really fancy groceries and like a $10 tip. And so people have been like really kind and generous, and
that's really nice. I love it.
it's nice like having that interaction.
Yeah.
I
Judy,
have
my neighbor who is sewing like a crazy person, same like you. I've sewn, but most of it's going in the mail to different people and different groups. She's getting the same thing. Like she's just like people are just the generosity and the kindness and the being appreciative. Now, a couple of questions I have for you, and then I have more questions for you.
sure.
On the masks, what pattern are you using?
I'm kind of using like a mixed pattern that I modified, and it's like it's like a curved face mask with like a raised nose bump.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some different names for them,
Yeah.
like the foo mask, or I've been doing that style.
Yeah. Interesting. Haley, do you have questions on the mask related things?
Yeah. So have you, I think the style that you're describing, is it the Olsen mask maybe?
I got one right here. I'll show it to you.
Okay. Yeah, that looks a little Yeah, that
That's
definitely
nice.
looks.
And then
it's really pretty. Wow.
And you do ties?
Yeah, I've been doing mostly ties. The ones that I keep for myself, I've been doing elastic because I know that I can make it fit right
Yeah.
for myself, but I don't really want to like give away elastic ones because I feel like people are going to be like, oh, it doesn't fit.
That's
And I'm
what
like,
we found, right? So we've
yeah.
got Sid, my kid, who's got small face, and Ron, who bigger
Mhm.
face. And so our test is like, can it fit both faces? And oftentimes, if it's not a tie, it doesn't fit them.
Mm-hmm.
Either of them,
Yeah.
actually. So
Yeah, I found I just sort of I just have like one adult pattern now and one child pattern, and with the ties it seems like they've fit everybody. I haven't had anyone have a problem with them.
Interesting. I love it.
Have you had? Oh, sorry.
go
I
ahead.
just had one more question regarding the mask style that you've used. Have you found like or had any complaints that what style you're using is not fitting, or like just when you incorporate the ties, does that help it fit better?
People have been like really excited about the fit, and I've gotten maybe like 30 messages from people that are like, this is the best, this fits great, it's super comfortable. And I think that one of the mistakes people are making is they think that it's like supposed to touch your mouth. And actually, I think there should be like space so that like if you're talking, you're not just like rubbing your lips against fabric all day. So and then I've been thinking a lot about like, you know how like products like Apple products, it's like MacBook Pro.
Right.
So I've been thinking about like the pro model of a mask, like for somebody that actually is going to be wearing it all day long. And I have my neighbor is a river like a boat captain, and he just got sent off onto duty for a month. And I was thinking like, and I wanted to make him some masks, and I was like, okay, how do I like make him just like the best thing I can so that he can actually be wearing it, 10 hours a day. And I found that the t-shirt ties are the most comfortable.
Really?
And there's different ways to like tie them. Like normally when I wear them, I tie it like here. And I
tie
don't
it under the ear. You're taking the two ties and tie it under the ear. Yeah.
And I found that like when I've worn an elastic one that even is like 1 millimeter too small, there's so much pressure on the back of the ears.
We found that too.
I also noticed if there wasn't like a really good curve here, that it messed with my vision when I was like sewing. And it was like really agitating. Like it was like going to give me a headache to have this thing between my eyes and what I'm looking at all the time. Like I'm sure people who wear glasses like have to adjust to that in some point in life, yeah. Really so I found that this style is the most comfortable. The problem with it is like the mugginess. And I don't know what to do about that other than tell people that like that, and like people want like filters, and I'm like, you want to be able to wear this, and like like I've been trying to use like tight cottons and all that, so it's like there isn't a lot of airflow that comes through that. Like it's pretty stiff in there. And so like I've found that like if I'm walking, that it's nice to be able to kind of like just have it on one ear for a little while, and then like if I'm going onto a block where there's other people, to flip it back up, or really like wear it more in like short bursts, like into the store. And I also think that people underestimate like how many of these they need. I think that people should have like at least like 5 of them, because you can't really you have to always be using a new one in order for it to be the most effective.
And how washable are they? I just how is the washing on them?
It's fine. The only issue is like the wrinkles on some of the fabrics. It gets like it kind of like in the dryer, and it gets all ugly, and like I feel like bad if someone were to have to iron it. And I found that the t-shirt fabric is the best in that respect, but the t-shirt's a little bit harder to sew and iron.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well, so you're giving away some of them, and you're selling them as well. So tell me a little, right? So tell me a little bit more about that and the business side of it. And how important are donated fabrics? Like, what's the economics of making a mask?
Sure. It's like a ton of money. Like it really is. Like it's just like a ton of orders. There's tons of people that want these.
Yeah.
There's tons of businesses that need them in order to like provide service. And the amount of orders that I received, like just on the first day, was it was like $2,000 worth of orders.
That's amazing.
And it's been I've had to be like really serious about being conscious about how I'm doing the business and keeping everything straight. And I'd love to give you guys like a tour of my studio.
Yeah,
Is that
sounds good.
cool?
Sure. Yeah.
So the first part is these forms. So this is like the order ticket in my studio. And I tried doing a spreadsheet, but I actually found that having paper connected with the fabric, like I couldn't connect fabric to a spreadsheet in my computer. So,
right.
So on the order form is the name, the order date, the communication platform, which would be like text or Nextdoor, Facebook. Then the order details, the quantity of masks, whether it's pickup or shipping, payment method, and like delivery date. So I started making these, and every order I get, whether it's a free order or not, I still fill out the ticket, and then I put it into another section of my studio. So this is my living room, and that is like now my like mask factory. So then my next step is they go to this table, and on this table they receive fabrics from here. And so I've already incorporated the fabrics that you gave me yesterday. Like here's like C and D and J and M are all like new ones from you yesterday.
I love it.
And
I'm
then
so glad you like them and are using them. So good.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate it. And then when I cut things, I try and like cut extras. So like here there's like one of these, but then there's the whole like amount of this that I had, I just cut the whole thing.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Backs, since that's the more like economical time way to do it. And then like some of them I have like to this level. I'll do a bunch. I try and like do everything in batches. That seems to be like the only way to kind of get ahead on it. This is my like shipping area now, which is all like new in my life. So here's like 300 priority mail envelopes and like all these different kinds of envelopes that I bought, and actually just this random plastic, because at first I didn't have any envelopes. So like the first like 40 orders that came out of my house were literally just like me sculpting trash that I had in my house into envelopes so I could ship it out. I have $200 right now worth of Marvin Gaye stamps that I ordered, which is definitely like part of the process of doing this, is thinking about how you're going to deliver everything to everybody. So this box here is like ones that are going out not yet. So that one says Wednesday on it, and that person's not coming till Wednesday. And then out here on my friendly looking house is this box that says thank you. And these are the people who are coming or should be coming today or soon to get their
That's very cool. And they're plastic and they have their names on it.
And then and I also tell them, like, I have this whole form letter I send them when they're coming to make them feel really like secure about the experience of coming to my house. And I say, like, I have an orange shotgun house with butterflies painted on it, and your masks will be in a Ziploc bag with your name on it waiting for you. And I've been trying really hard to not have people give me cash or checks, and I've been trying to get people to do electronic payment, and it's been kind of hard because there's a lot of elderly people who want masks and are very like internet illiterate.
Yeah.
And that's been a really big hurdle. And that's been a point where I've had to like up my compassion and say like, okay, I will call this person's landline and I will have them mail me a check.
Right.
And like, we will do this. And I know it will take 10 times longer, but like there's, I would feel bad just like hanging up on an old, like an elderly lady that really just like wants a mask, you know?
Interesting. Now, how much are you sewing every day?
How much am I sewing?
Like, is this like your whole life? Do you like feel like?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like my whole life. Like when the first week I did it, I probably sewed or cut or ironed or took breaks from or took orders like 12 hours a day. It was really intense. And there were so many messages coming in and so many orders coming in that I couldn't even sew. And like, it was just so distracting to deal with the orders. So I realized not only did I have to sew the masks in batches, but I have to address the emails in batches too.
That makes sense.
I wanted to show you my fabric supply too.
Yeah.
So up here is like spare fabrics. These are all t-shirts that people have donated to me. There's probably like 5 t-shirts in here from a pack I bought from Amazon. These are all like strips of t-shirt that are pulled into cord that are like ready to match up. And then this is my like, I don't know if you can see, this is like where all the like scrap goes.
Yeah.
Where I plow fabric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then that's where I sew on my dining room table.
Amazing. How are other people in your industry? Do you feel like in New Orleans, like people are very worried about the crafters, people that are dependent on parades and others? Are they doing the same? So you are very entrepreneurial. You always have been. You're amazing, right? You're like amazing. Like really seriously. So how are other people doing? Are they doing as well as you? Do you feel like you're an anomaly? Do you feel like a lot of your friends are doing this? Sort of what's happening with the craft industry?
Well, I feel like I'm about to like reinvent myself and like just like go in some like cool new directions and maybe like return to sewing and maybe spend less time focused on events. For a lot of reasons, not just because of the virus, but like because it's very physically exhausting to do that work. And like, I'm in my 40s and I don't want to be Chris Owens, like I don't want to be like the showgirl forever. And so I have been thinking a lot about like what is work that I can shift that's more like I get to like have less physical stress in the work and use my brain more. So I'm excited to think about different projects that I've already been thinking about that now this moment accelerates my interest in. And I see a lot of other artists having success right now in sales. And I think that a lot of people in our community are really aware that a lot of artists have lost their jobs and that they might need support. And so I think that a lot of people have been like really, really, really generous to the arts community in New Orleans. And I don't think that generosity has necessarily touched every artist. And there are artists out there that are struggling. And as all people out there, there's a lot of struggle. Totally. But I have seen a lot of, like, I've never sold so many things, like I've never had my friends buy so much stuff from me. And like the other day, there was an article about me making and selling the masks in Where You At. And then I got 6 sales on it to like a dedicated email address, nolafacemask@gmail.com. Yeah. And every one of those emails was like actually from a friend of mine.
Really?
And I was like, that's so funny that they read this article. Right. And then they were like, oh, I know Katrina, I should get some masks. And I think that there's some support that is like keeping the artists up right now, and there's a lot of grants, and sometimes I'm sort of shocked how many grants there are for artists. Like I'm like, why, like maybe there should be more grants for like single mothers, or you know, like sometimes I'm like, why do they think we're so messed up, you know, like but there is a lot of money out there for artists, and I don't know how like how quickly it's being distributed, but in New Orleans it does seem like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's just crazy. Okay, well, I think that you're amazing. It's nice to hear that the craft community now I get a ton of questions about like where can I buy masks, and I keep sending them to you. And do you send them on if you can't fill their orders? Is it okay to keep having you as like the artist I know in my life? I need to know more artists.
I do have like backup in case I you know get overwhelmed, but I've been doing 90% of them.
That's really great. Do you want to talk about your other project that you've been working on? That's a little sadder and more controversial, or do you want to not have that as part of it?
Maybe I can surprise you with a new one.
Really? Okay. Well, you want to talk about both.
I did notice that this interview is about COVID, quilting, and copyright.
Yes.
So I would love to talk about copyright with you.
I like that.
Yeah, I pretty much am always having copyright issues with somebody, but I can tell you about the ones I'm having right now.
Okay. Sounds good.
So last September, out of nowhere, I got a phone call, and the person said that they had some tricycles, which, for your friend here, I make tricycles that have animals on them.
Okay, so where can we go to sort of see those? So if people are listening, like they don't really understand.
Sure.
So tricycles with animals is true, but they're more spectacular than that. It's hard to explain what they are. So where do we go?
To colossus.org, KOLOSSOS.org.
I did it wrong. Tell me again. COLO.
KOL.
Sorry.
KOLOSSOS.
I found it. Wow, those are cool.
Right. So, like, you make amazing things, art bikes, right? Big head masks, right? Your stuff is like very distinct and really amazing. So tell me what's going on copyright wise. So
last September I get this phone call at like 7 a.m, and it's this lady, and she's like, I have some tricycles I want to sell you. And I was like, I at first thought she was in New Orleans, and I was like, well, you know, okay, you know, like send me some information about it. And then I thought she just meant like bikes, like not like art bikes. And then she's like, oh no, these are like just like yours. And I was like okay. And she's like, no, like I studied your work and I copied them like exactly from your website and from your social media so that they would be just like yours, and I think they would be really good in your business, and I want to sell them to you, and if you don't buy them, I'm going to auction them. And I was like, whoa. And then I played nice and didn't freak out. And I was like, hey, that's cool. Like, you want to send me some photos of these bikes? And so she sends me an email with the photos. And one of the bikes is like, even my family wouldn't have been able to tell the two bikes apart, other than hers is shittier. Yeah. Like, it's just like she doesn't know what she's doing, but it is so clearly a copy. It's like completely copying mine. And even the photo that she sent me of hers was, the position of the bike and everything was like identical to the photo on my website. And then so I told her that like that was really like hurtful to me to do that. Like, that's how I responded to her email. I was like, this is really hurtful. Like, your copying of my work is destructive to me as an artist and my business, and you know, like my personhood and my economics. And like, I recommend you donate these bikes to my fleet, and I'll like chill out about this. And then there was also a school involved, because there was a school that enabled these bikes to be made in their campus, and they wrote the school's name on the bikes, and they paraded them for their football game, and they also paraded them for Christmas parades for 4 years, which I actually don't celebrate football or Christmas, and those aren't like things that my work represents at all.
Uh-huh.
And it was like
moral rights. Yeah.
Like I told my boyfriend today, I said, if I ever kill myself, it will be because somebody copied my art. That like the emotional upheaval and distress that this type of behavior, which constantly happens to me, is so devastating. Like and strangely, so the woman agreed to send me the bikes, to destroy the bikes, to destroy the art and donate the tricycles to me. And then the next day I got a letter from allegedly her wife. And the woman said that this woman had attempted to kill herself, and that it was probably connected with like my,
that's not fair, right? Like they don't know you, they don't know your background. That's not fair. That's not fair, right?
Well, not only is it not fair, but like my mom had just killed herself.
Yeah.
Like that's like super messed up, right? And I've talked to a lot of people, including my therapist, about it, and they all feel that the suicide attempt was not a real thing. They all feel that was a manipulation. And I feel like this person is also like this weird crazed fan.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that, right? To sort of, I mean, it's crossed over into an interesting, weird space of, but I don't know. So, okay. So then what happened? So did that go away?
It's like, it's gone on and on. Like after the wife said that the woman was like essentially going to need like rehab from the suicide attempt, and like would be like out of touch because she was messed up now and their lives were ruined. But then like I followed the woman on Facebook, and a couple months later she was like back to posting puppy pics. So I was like, okay, I'm going to poke at this again. And then I messaged her a bunch of times about it, and was like super demanding and, frighteningly assertive, but like within, the law.
Right.
And I've also reached out to the school, because what they did with the bikes is not like fair use classroom use. Right. So, and then eventually this person like lawyered up, and the lawyer wrote me a letter that's like a cease and desist, and like if I keep talking about it, if I keep like posting on Facebook or doing anything like that I will be like, that they're gonna
defamation or libel.
They've said extortion, they've said harassment. Really? Yeah, and they said they're gonna tell the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
copyright infringement.
No, over me being like a harassing extortioner.
Because you don't want them committing copyright infringement.
Yeah, and it's been like really abusive. Like their lawyer has said a lot of really intense things to me, and like has made a lot of like ableist remarks about my mental health, like knowing that my mom just killed herself. It's pretty weird. Like the lawyer has like
harassing you. That's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is really weird.
I mean, I think the part that so so Haley, I'm curious what your thoughts are about this, but when we teach law students about cases, it always is the story like this, right? And there's always a moment in the story when you're like, oh no, right? Like they do something and you're like, and the moment that she was like, I copied your stuff exactly. Like the amount of time and work she had to do something she was unauthorized to do that's the moment, right? Where you're like, okay, well, this wasn't a good situation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why didn't she ask for permission? The idea she's trying to sell it back to you.
You're like, that's the moment that this person really almost set themselves up for the lawsuit.
Right. So interesting. So very interesting. Well, I'm sorry that's happening to you. I really do. Yeah, I mean, we can talk off camera about sort of thoughts about it, but I'm really sorry that that's not fair to you, because they've just injected. There's another thing. Okay, I'll tell you another stupid story. There's a Donald Bartholomew short story, Snow White, where he rewrites Snow White, and the evil queen like calls somebody and she's like, I'm injecting my discourse into your discourse, and you didn't ask for this, and it's all about this like Mr. Quisgard, and it's like my very favorite thing, because I feel like I inject my discourse into people's lives in terribly crazy ways, but that's what they did to you, right? You didn't ask for them to make it. You didn't ask for them to, like, you didn't ask for any of it. It's all their kind of craziness on their side of making them, and then like all of it. It's like very interesting. It really does feel very fan based. I think it'd be fascinating to know more about
this
that.
Stuff like happens to me so often. Like I have this like really distinct profile of the people that do this to me now.
Really?
And it seems like most of them are like sort of like people who aren't in the arts that are involved with education and don't understand the lines of teaching art and copyright violation.
Interesting.
And they think that because they're involved with education and that they're not artists and they're not going to sell it, but then they have it, and of course they're going to sell it eventually. You know. So I think that the education system has some fault in the
big time. I mean, the way we teach or not teach copyright is remarkable on both sides, you know. I mean, some schools are doing it now, but it's also dangerous because, like, who's funding it and what messages are they sending and all that. So it gets complicated. Well, I'm sorry about that. Well, if stuff happens, you know, you're welcome to always call me. I'm not an attorney. I'm a law professor, but I'm happy to sort of chat with you about whatever. Yeah, Haley, that's a good question for an exam question, right?
I know.
Totally.
I know. Discuss the options your client has.
Exactly.
I feel like all of that, like after, you know, I mean, I have asked like lawyer friends to look at it and stuff, and it's like it's worth so little money, and it's so unfair how most of the copyright violations are essentially worth so little money that in order to fighting them is so hard.
It's interesting. The Congress passed and the Senate then didn't, I don't think. I don't know where it is, but they are trying to get through a small claims court. So it'll be interesting to see how that shifts things if that happens. You know, I don't know if the legislation will ever get through, but you know, it's $5,000 claims, and it's all digital, it's all online. You have to register your work to be able to, or put in a registration record to be eligible. But I think in some way, you know, it's really being pushed by the photographers who are really, they have terrible things happen to them, right? Like people just use their stuff all the time and all that. So I don't know, it's complicated, but
I have a different style. So there's like, you know, legal style, but then I heard this other business strategy. It's called crazy hoe. And like once you realize it's not worth pursuing, like with lawyers, like you can still use your crazy hoe strategies and like be super disruptive. And like I heard this woman who was like a sex worker do this podcast, and she was talking about it, and she was like, I just walk right in their office and I say, you owe me money, and they freak out, you know. So I think there's a lot of, and I have won a previous trademark issue just being aggressive online and just like using my creativity to like shame another company or not another person out of like what they're doing to me. And I think a lot of the time I would say that most copyright violations that I'm dealing with are people that don't understand copyright.
Right. Totally.
They actually think I'm like an insane bad person because I'm saying these things to them.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, and we get the flip side of it too, where people think they hold copyright and stuff and they don't. And they're really upset about it, and it's like, well, you know, techniques aren't protectable and nothing in it that
Ideas.
you've done is right. Like you can't keep somebody from making a unicorn quilt because you made it. You know what I mean? Like there's like they don't understand copyright on that side of it either. So I just feel like I hope that we educate people more. I don't know. We're just trying to figure out how to do that so that people can. But I like your strategy. I think custom and cultural pressure is really important skills. I mean, that's important. And also cultural norms of a community saying, sort of, if something happens, to have your community around you support and sort of, as you said, sort of readjust people so that they understand that what they're doing is not appropriate. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, it's unless you have a big case, like Walmart takes your bikes and makes bikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be worth it to fight it legally. I mean, you can send them a cease and desist letter and other things, but it's not going to be like you're not taking them to court. It's just too expensive at this point and not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, but like Google reviews have so much power. Like just like I've Google reviewed this school now, and I've mentioned this person, and like, I mean, it's going to be there, and they're going to have to deal with it. Like they're going to have to, people are going to Google the school, and they're going to see what the school allows to happen, and the photos and the bad the bad review.
That's
and
right.
Actually, I've been considering sending a bad review to the lawyer that this person now has harassing me.
Very interesting.
A couple years ago, I posted something on my Facebook that was true, and a local newspaper sent me a letter from a lawyer, like saying that a cease and desist, saying I had to remove the post like immediately, or that like I could like face like all this actions. And it was against the newspaper, but it was true. And they really tried to intimidate me. And I thought it was so wrong that they were essentially trying to like shut down my free speech with some like cheap cease and desist. And so I decided to make this video I have this like vagina puppet. So I made this video on YouTube of me like reading the letter to the vagina puppet and like trying to explain this nonsense to her. And then I put that up with the name of the law firm in the title of it, like me and my vagina and so and so and so and so and so. And that video had 4,000 hits when I took it down, and I assume those are all local people that like looked up that law firm, and that video is like the first thing that comes up. And I took it down later when I was working with an organization that was like funded by that law firm. So I took it down myself. But I think there is a lot of power in that. And I mean, it's scary, because the shaming, like using the internet as like a shame tool, you can't control how that plays out, completely. But it's unfair to ask individual artists to get lawyers all the time.
One of the things we're starting to work on is thinking about, so Ron, my husband, we teach all these classes on entrepreneurship and trademark and all of this. And so I've been doing a lot of work with immersive research with our students. So JustWannaQuilt's one of those. But we're kind of running out of stuff to do with our projects, and I'm not really ready to get another one. So we're thinking about trying to do a really interesting kind of incubator where people will sign up to be part of it, but then they'll know what topics are happening in the class so they can be part of it and, read the same book. I think the only cost will be like they'd have to buy the book that the students are reading, but then you'd have a team of students working on whatever it is that you're working on. Or if you had a problem like your problem, you could say, hey, I'm having this problem. Could we do it as a class exercise? So it becomes like this space that's like, once you're in our little incubator thing, you could then, if we're doing like giveaways or brand endorsement, being a brand ambassador, or whatever it is, whatever the topic is, starting a company or starting a nonprofit, it gives us resources for the class, but also allows community to benefit from the students. So, because that's kind of what we've done for years now, is I always have an army of students helping out on my ridiculous projects, and that's always super helpful. So that's kind of our newest idea. It seems like the stuff that you would do would be helpful. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? Does that sound? I mean, it gives them a legal resource and other spaces of resource business and other
Well,
things.
I guess I have two feelings on copyright. I think that it's really upsetting to feel like someone did something wrong. Like in my situation where like I know they did this wrong thing to me.
Yeah.
And I also know that like essentially I will never win anything about it. Like I can hurt them, but I will never be rewarded for the bad thing that happened to me about it because it's not worth it to pursue it.
And did you
So I
register
think
those works at the Copyright Office? Do you ever register your works at the
I
Copyright
did
Office?
try, like I did photo them, I did
Uh-huh.
send them in, it was all
Yeah.
rejected, and I was like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think like
Interesting.
because they're on bikes, it's weird,
We should chat because we could. I think we should chat because I think that's a perfect example of sort of having us help you with the registration records,
Mhm.
strategizing. I imagine they reject it as a useful article, but it's not. It's separate. It's aesthetically separable. Like, right, Haley? Like what she's doing is
Mhm.
not functional. It's not
Yeah.
functional. None of what you add to a bike makes it a better bike, right? It's really about like the aesthetic and the art. So
The creativity part
the
of it.
creativity part. But I
Mhm.
think,
So I guess what I was gonna say about like the
yeah,
like what I think is valuable to artists, I've
yeah,
been to a lot of like sort of free workshops at
yeah.
different,
Me too.
things, and I feel like that are run by lawyers that like probably want me to like go be their client,
Right.
and that's why they're doing this for free.
Yep.
And I find that they make everyone kind of paranoid.
Right.
They
I
they
agree. I
like for
find
me to go fight for
no.
some $1,200
I
is
totally
not the
agree.
right answer,
No, I totally agree. I
and so I
think that
think that idea of
yeah.
like if it's a Walmart or if it's like a huge corporation, to know that this is the time that a lawyer is going to probably
Mhm.
take your case for free
Right.
because you know what I mean? Like that's
Right.
another thing. If a lawyer is going to take your case for free,
They know that
it's
there's
because they
money in it.
believe in it,
Right.
And so to have a case that's where you can do that is
Yeah.
important,
I
and because
think
otherwise it's not worth it.
yeah, and I think we've been through many of the same things, right? I've been through a bunch because we experienced all these incubators and help people, and a lot of it's good. No, don't get me wrong; it's all very positive. But I think that we feel very differently about it, which is I want the students to I don't want you to come and hear a lecture about how you do something. I want the students and you to do it. Like I want like results. Like if you are going to do a giveaway and you need a terms of service, I want you to understand what that terms of service is, and I want it done within the half hour, right? So the idea is for the students to understand what you do as an artist, so that when you become a client, they have a better understanding of how to do it, but that you also understand how to only be charged an hour of time with an attorney, not 20 hours. So I think it's we've been doing this now for a decade, and we call it immersive research, but I think that it's super important for the students to get how hard it is to do what you do, so that when you come to them as clients, they're more respectful, they have more empathy, and they solve your problems quickly. That they recognize what you need, which is maybe a good, strong letter, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe registering the work, or maybe just saying, this is one we can't win, right?
Yeah.
So,
Also, the artists are the problem too. Like they're not like angels,
right,
like I mean they're creating copyright violations, not even
hugely.
realizing it all
That's
the
right,
time. And like,
right.
I mean, like actually so many people have been asking me for Saints masks, and I actually have been responding that it would be illegal for me to sell them a Saints mask
Yeah. You could take the
because
fabric, right? You could take fabric you bought and use the fabric, but you also might
no,
get a
you
cease and
can't.
desist letter.
Like it says right on it that you
You
can't
can't sell it.
resell it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so we did a ton of work on the salvage license thing. We're not totally sure you can do that, right? Like, so the idea that like first sale doctrine kind of allows you to if they had a book that said like you can't resell the book, we know that you can't do that. So why can you put why can you put a salvage on fabric where you're not changing the fabric, right? You're not making a derivative. You're not scanning the fabric and making something different. And the courts and everyone else is not clear on whether those are legal or not. To take, you've already purchased the fabric. That first sale doctrine would say you can do whatever you want with it. So I don't want you to be the test case, but I think it's really interesting that that's there and they're putting on there. I at some point would really like to see sort of, I mean, and it's not clear, the law is not clear, The first sale doctrine, man. That's what first sale doctrine's about. That's why you
But
can
I also
sell.
don't want to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to promote someone else's brand. Like, not only do I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that would just be promoting the, sending more money to Gail Benson,
Yeah.
in a way. Like,
Well,
I think
they've already gotten their money because you've paid probably full price. You're paying retail price for the fabric, so they've gotten their cut of the money in like the most
but I'm
expensive
saying
way.
I don't want to make Saint stuff,
right?
Either way.
Yeah, no, I mean, me either. So, I mean, I just think, but there are cases where like licensing, it's not clear. The law is not clear, right? Like it can go either way, but that's one of the things we did a ton of research on this, and I don't know, but I find it, I don't know, I find it disturbing. Because, again, if you're going to pay full price for fabric, who cares whether you sell it for $10 as a mask, right? Like, it's already authorized fabric.
I can see, like, that I'm sure they wouldn't mind if it was a mask, but what if it is a giant stuffed dildo or something, So, like, I can see that
I'm kind of a little bit radical, right? Like, I don't think I don't think that they have the right to restrict. I mean, if I'm purchasing fabric, I should be able to make what I want to make with it. And I should be able to sell things with it. It's for sale doctrine, right? You could take a record but then there's some cases like that are really, they go about the other way. They say it is a derivative work. So I'm a little bit radical on this. This is how the project started. I made a Star Wars quilt out of a kit that was a really stupid kit. But I could do it in like 2 hours because I forgot I was donating a quilt to PILF, our thing at school, our public interest thing, and the person who owned the quilt shop was like, "Are you allowed to do that?" And I was like, "I'm donating a kit that I already purchased. Like, yeah, like come on, like really? Are you gonna come after me for like?" Donating a quilt to some stupid law school thing where they're going to, with drunk law school students? Like, seriously. So that's kind of where the project started, which was like, we really do need to know our copyright law a little bit better so we understand what fabric we can and can't use. So I still don't have the answer, but I think
I used to get a lot of cease and desist letters on Etsy. I would sell like skirts that were made from upcycled T-shirts. And I got one from like the attorneys from The Simpsons for one of their shirts, and a lot from the college football and professional sports leagues. It seemed like they were the ones that cared the most.
Right, of course they do, right? And so the question really is, I mean, we had a sticker project. Okay, I know we have to go into a second. Somebody's coming at 3. But we had a sticker project, a really stupid sticker project. We made stickers for the law school students to buy. And it had to get approved at Tulane. And they had maybe 3 or 4 conversations about our stickers that we were going to sell for like 25 cents in the lobby with 2 law students. Like, they were so protective of their stuff. I was like, this is really worth your time. Like, they came to our class. We had a conversation. It was ridiculous. So I understand that they're super protective. It's just the question of, is the law on their side? And I'm not totally sure it is.
Well, it'd probably be expensive to find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe, or maybe not. You know what I mean? I it's not something that we're pushing at the moment, but I really do want to understand sort of where that line is. I mean, for me, repurposing T-shirts, first sale doctrine. Seriously, like you can't resell your. What about all the shops that make that are like used clothes stores? Can they not resell your T-shirt? Like, oh, but if you cut it and like sew it up, that's different, right? And so there's a case. There's 2 cases that like if you put a piece of a postcard on a piece of tile is that a derivative work. Same company, 2 different jurisdictions. One said no, one said yes. So it's really unsettled. Like, can you take something and make something out of it? But
I think that it would be good for artists to sort of understand that there's this gray space in it.
Yeah.
But that also as an artist, like, be more original.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that, I mean, now that I'm doing all this fabric stuff and I'm seeing all this, like, sort of quilter stuff, I'm like, wow, like, they don't really care about, like, that community seems to think that if you buy, like, a quilt kit, that quilt is like your art. And like, and that's,
they get confused. It's like more like puzzling, but I think that they
Yeah,
also
like
are
they're-
like sewists, right?
it's-
So you're hiring them as a
strange
sewist.
space for that.
It's
you know,
pretty strange. Yeah, it's very strange. I totally love you. You know that. Like we could have conversation. We could like we're supposed to talk for like 20 minutes. Poor Haley. I've like she's not having much chat today.
No. It's been very interesting. I really
But I think
enjoyed
these
it.
conversations are super important. We've created a book called Just Wanna Create for Quilters, which is a copyright and fair use strategies book. I would love for you to take a look at it because we're going to also be modifying it for artists in general. I feel like they don't really know enough about fair use and how it works. And then the distinction between commercial and non-commercial use, and when you move over to commercial use, that you really do need to think about the things that you're thinking about, and how to respond to a cease and desist letter. How did you respond when you were working on Etsy to those cease and desist letters? Did you just say sorry and take it down?
Yeah, I did. But
Yeah.
then like now I'm on the other side of it where I'm like sending them to like little baby Etsyers that are like infringing on my trademarks, and like I see them like squirm, and like I'm just like now like I have the trademark for Mardi Gras, so like that one comes up a lot. And so being on the other side of it and sort of realizing that like if you're not really like if they come back with more, I'm not going to do more, you know. And
Right. It's what you were saying about the bullying power, right? Like that's all that people really have in this system is fear, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, well, I'll let you all go because I know you got the next person.
Next
and,
person. Well, I think you're awesome. We have I have a bit more fabric that's coming back to the house. So if you want more fabric, just let me know. And,
I'll definitely come get more fabric. Just message me anytime.
Cool. Well, it's still we'll see. Hopefully, it'll come back today. So we'll see.
Okay, cool.
And so let's keep chatting. I think it's so great. And as we develop this idea of the incubator, I really would love your input because it's really for someone like you and others that are starting out. That really is about empowerment and DIY legal and sort of giving tools that are smart tools that are effective.
Cool.
No like scare tactics and no stupid conversations that you leave and you go, well, I know nothing. I can't do anything more. Like that was a waste of my time. Like an hour.
I'll have like in the alley after your workshop, I'll have like a little like tough girl.
Exactly.
Like,
Totally.
how to punch them around,
like,
you know?
Right. All right. Here's the real deal. Right? Like I'll leave and you'll be like, here's the real way you do it.
We're going off the record.
Yeah.
Totally. I would think it would be great. I think you should so be part of it. It would be really great. Okay. I totally adore you. Thank you so much. Are you okay with us posting this? Do you need to review it?
No, yeah, everything's fine.
Awesome. All right. We'll chat
Okay,
soon.
thank you.
Bye.
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 So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Gard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.